In 1981, a mysterious religious leader bought 64,000 acres of Oregon desert. Within 3 years, his followers built a utopian city, tried to take over a local town, and then poisoned 751 Americans in a plot to rig an election. Bhagwan Shree Rajneesh, known later as Osho, was an Indian guru who preached radical free love, materialism, and inner awakening. Thousands followed him, mainly affluent Westerners abandoning their lives to serve the Bhagwan.
We don't have a single thief. We don't have any crime.
Fleeing mounting scrutiny in India, Rajneesh and his top aide, Anand Sheela, relocated to rural Oregon, where they rapidly erected a city, Rajneeshpuram. They built homes, farms, an airstrip, and even their own police force. But tensions brewed immediately. Rajneeshpuram bordered a tiny town of 40 residents, Antelope. Most were retirees. They watched with horror as the Rajneeshis began buying up land and moving in, trying to vote their way into power. The cult used aggressive tactics, buying local properties, flooding town meetings, and exploiting zoning loopholes. In 1984, they succeeded. Rajneesh followers legally took over Antelope and renamed it Rajneesh. It was the first American town ever conquered by a religious sect. The mastermind was Sheela, sharp-tongued, hyper-loyal, and ruthless. While Rajneesh retreated into silence and luxury, Sheela became the face and fist of the commune, running it like a state within a state. Within the commune, Sheela demanded absolute obedience. Dissenters were silenced, and a tightly controlled inner circle handled finances, security, and ideology. Those who spoke up often disappeared from leadership roles or simply vanished from view altogether. In a bid to win county elections, Sheela launched Share a Home, bussing in thousands of homeless people from across the US, offering food and shelter if they registered to vote in Wasco County. But it backfired. The plan had immediate consequences. Thousands of homeless men and women, many with addiction issues, untreated mental illnesses, and no prior knowledge of the commune, suddenly crammed into makeshift dormitories. Internal reports show that Rajneeshpuram's infrastructure was overwhelmed. Food ran short, fights broke out, and the leadership grew paranoid. Soon, the new arrivals weren't allowed to leave. Security guards were posted at exits. People were told they had to complete their service before returning to the outside world. But even then, it became clear to Sheela that things weren't going as planned. Many of the buzzed-in residents weren't interested in the commune's teachings. Others refused to vote how they were told. Some just wanted out. And so, Sheela took a darker turn. Commune insiders later testified that staff began drugging the homeless population with Haldol, a powerful antipsychotic typically used to sedate patients in psychiatric crises. The drugs were allegedly slipped into beer, tea, and even soup served at the shelters. Some residents grew lethargic, others collapsed. One former member recounted watching a man have a seizure on the floor after drinking spiked tea. Another remembered being told to shut up and eat when he questioned the food. When journalists caught wind of the growing chaos, the Rajneeshis claimed they were simply trying to help the less fortunate, but by then the buses had quietly started running again. Only this time, they were emptying the city, not filling it. Hundreds were expelled without notice. Some were abandoned in nearby towns miles from help. Others were simply left on the roadside. One local sheriff said it looked like a human flood pouring out of the desert. But the most infamous act was still to come. In September 1984, the Rajneeshis made history for the worst possible reason. In a secret operation, commune members dressed in plain clothes drove into the Dals, the county seat, and began targeting restaurants. Their method? Salad bars. Using laboratory-grown strains of Salmonella enterica, they coated lettuce, salad dressing containers, and raw vegetables in at least 10 different restaurants. The goal wasn't to kill, but to incapacitate, to make voters too sick to show up on election day. It worked. Over 750 people fell ill with severe food poisoning. Dozens were hospitalized. Investigators at first suspected poor hygiene, maybe bad produce. But as patterns emerged and all signs pointed to deliberate contamination, the FBI got involved. It was, and still remains, the largest bioterror attack in American history.
And suddenly there were so many people. We had people laying on the floor. We had people leaning up against the wall. There were people in the lobby.
They all had the same symptoms. Microbiologists identified the cause: Salmonella.
And it wasn't a one-off. Later evidence showed that Sheela's group had considered other methods too: poisoning water supplies, assassinating public officials, even using more lethal pathogens. Surveillance recordings recovered by the FBI captured Sheela herself speaking of neutralizing enemies and wiping out opposition. Inside the commune, the FBI discovered a chilling infrastructure: illegal wiretaps hidden in walls and ceilings, logs detailing every call made in Rajneeshpuram, a cache of semi-automatic rifles, forged passports, plans for bombing government buildings, marriage fraud schemes, lists of enemies, some even marked with red dots. One informant described the operations as a cult intelligence agency with a religious mask. Eventually, the whole system collapsed under its own weight. In late 1985, federal agents arrested Bhagwan Shree Rajneesh on 35 counts of immigration fraud. He attempted to flee the country in a Learjet, but was caught in North Carolina. In a press conference afterward, he blamed everything on Sheela. By then, she had already fled first to Switzerland, then West Germany, where she was arrested by Interpol. She was extradited back to the US, convicted, and